Hi, beautiful neurodivergent souls. This is Robbie with the Inner Powered Life. And for those of you who are not familiar with me, I am a late diagnosed autistic and ADHD professional adult, and neurodivergence runs in my family. Um, I have been on my own journey for decades, recovering from bullying and abuse paradigms in family of origin and school and employment and partner and spiritual settings. So I'm coming to you from very lived experience, and also psychology is a special interest of mine. And so I've invested years into learning many different modalities for nervous system regulation and trauma processing. And I have a master's in mental health and wellness prevention science. So I'm just letting you know I bring this to you not as like some freak from YouTube, but I'm also not a state licensed clinical therapist. So I'm coming to you from a very well informed peer support kind of approach. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into today's topic, which is the the paradigm of not ever being good enough, or the Rumpelstiltskin paradigm. So for those of you who might be familiar with older literature, Rumpelstiltskin comes from the Grimm's fairy tales, which is very dark and I don't recommend it. But um Rumpelstiltskin in the story was basically a dark or demonic impish figure who exploited this princess to help her with an impossible task that was given to her. And he kept raising the bar, and no matter what she did, it wasn't right and it wasn't enough. And she was always being threatened. And there was a lot of drama and trauma with it. So, those of you who are familiar with old literature know this story. Um, and I just draw on this because it is really very descriptive of narcissistic abuse mode, their no modality, like their modus operandi, so to speak, regardless of whether it is childhood environments or school partners, employers are a huge thing, and this even can cross over into religious and spiritual communities. So, how do you know, as a neurodivergent person, if you have been sucked into a Rumpelstiltskin, never good enough, always raising the bar kind of paradigm? So, as neurodivergent people, a lot of us have been taught from the beginning we're not good enough. We're always doing everything wrong. Everybody else is right. Yeah, you did this, but you should have done this and you should have known. And there's always these rules that we didn't know, and the bar is always higher, and there's all these things, right? And so we jump through hoops if we have abusive parents to meet their standards, and then abusive school systems and abusive peers, which can even start literally in elementary school. And then, of course, it gets more profound as you progress through it. Then, a lot of us, because we have this foundation, transition into abusive romantic paradigms where the partner would love us if we would just do whatever, right? And that always changes. Um, Employment is a huge narcissistic, toxic, awful thing. Um, because even if there are agreed upon job descriptions in an interview, which doesn't necessarily translate into what you're doing later, or there's an employee handbook, or there's all these job descriptions and operational manuals and all this stuff. We all know, if we've been in any kind of workplace, that this doesn't necessarily filter down into reality, and it's not equally applied, right? And so for neurodivergent people, this can be super confusing because we operate off of what we've been told or what we've read or what has been told us is the rules or what we're supposed to do. This also happens in romantic relationships where the person wants this kind of thing and we try to do that, but it's never good enough. And you will usually find this in romantic relationships to be when you are in a relationship with a non-neurodivergent person. So you're going to always be approaching everything from a completely different processing point than they are. Um, and your emotional engagement, even though completely sincere, will be in a different thing that expecting. And the other thing is a lot of neurodivergent people are targeted by narcissistic, neurotypical partners because we're easy targets, because we're naive and we want to please, and we're easy to love bomb and all these other things. And we tend to attach easily and become dependent. And it's very, very easy to manipulate us and to keep us jumping through hoops continually for nothing. And a lot of us will keep coming back even after we've been discarded, after we've been cheated on, after there's abuse, after there's all these things. And it's worse if you have children because there's an actual extra legitimate obligation, right? In a work setting, it is we're not going to explain to you what's actually happening. You should just know. Or, yeah, the manual says this, but it doesn't apply to you, except that all these other things apply to you, but they don't apply to anybody else. Um, Constant gaslighting. You're never good enough, or you could be the star performer, literally outdoing everybody around you, and everyone around you gets a raise, but not you. Probably many of you who have been in the workforce have experienced this countless times over. And it's not a you thing, and it's not a your failure to perform thing. It's a Rumpelstiltskin. Nothing you do will ever be good enough because they don't want you to succeed because they are abusers. Okay? Many of us can get trapped if we're already in all these other paradigms. We can get trapped in religious or spiritual or community groups or other affinity groups where we are supposed to maintain a certain standard or it has to be this way or whatever, and we do the best we can, and we might be meeting or exceeding the standard, but somehow not good enough, right? Um, there's a weird hierarchy that we don't understand, and we can exceed everybody else, but it still doesn't matter. And this is incredibly damaging to us mentally and emotionally and spiritually and ultimately even physically, because no matter what we do, it's not enough. And we don't understand why it's not enough because we've either met all the requirements or we're trying to meet the requirements, but they keep changing, or the requirements are so astronomically impossible that we can't, or we need extra supports to meet them and nobody wants to help accommodate us to do that, right? And so this can leave us feeling helpless and victimized and like we're failures and we're not good enough. Nobody will love us. We're not a good employees. We're not a good person. We're this, that, or whatever kind of way. And the failure is not on us. And we know, like, if you're slacking in your job or you're not being a good partner, you're not being good, and you know, like you're not. That's a different thing. But be aware that abusers like to gaslight you into saying that you're not doing enough, even when you are. And this can be your family of origin, your partner, even a spouse you've been with for years or decades, your employers, your friends, community groups, ethnic groups, religious groups, whatever you're involved with. All of them can do this. Yes, sometimes we do need to improve things, but you know if you do. The difference is if they're gaslighting you, is you feel like you've done your best and you know it and you can document it, and there's still always a reason why it's not good enough. If this is happening to you, you are in the clutches of an abusive person and or an abusive system. Okay. So your question might be then, okay, what do I do about this? The first thing that you have to do, and I have realized this in all of the modalities I've studied and everything I've done, is it is your mindset. You have to decide, I am not going to be a victim. It doesn't matter what has happened. It doesn't matter what I'm seeing right now. It doesn't matter what I'm afraid will happen in the future. I am not going to be a victim. And when you decide that you, A, have authority because you are a divinely created human being made in the image of God, regardless of your neurotype or physical incapacity or your background or anything you've done or anything else, you're made in the image of God. And as a human being, you have authority and you have an innate power. Okay. You stand in your power and say, no, no, you're not going to keep doing this to me. It doesn't mean you have to be overtly rebellious or have an attitude or have any kind of way. You have to understand in yourself, you deserve better. And this is not going to happen because you are not a victim. Once you understand that, you can start taking steps in the real world to extricate yourself from these situations. And can this be hard? Yes. You can't necessarily find a job like this, a different job. You may have children. Does that mean you have to stay in an abusive spousal relationship? And this is male or female, because there are a lot of men who are in relationships with vile women, right? You can still take care of your kids and honor your stuff, but not be abused. You have to understand that you're not going to do this. There's a way around this, and make that your mindset. And you will find as you actually keep that in your mind and you're not distracted by everything that's happening outside you, you will see opportunities and things that you can do that will actually get you out of these situations. And I have experienced this myself personally. And I've applied this for probably 3 years now and seen the complete change from this victim horrible mindset to things starting to align. And it was because I changed my perception of who I am. I changed my perception of how others treat me and where I'm at. And I decided, no, no, this old thing is not what's happening. This is the new thing that's happening. People are going to treat me this way now. I manage money this way now. My relationships are this way now. Employers treat me this way now. And when you stand in that and you don't waver, or if you waver, you come back, you will start seeing that as you do this, things start changing. And it's not witchcraft, it's not magic, it's not manipulating other people. It's the way that our multiverse is constructed. Things change as you observe them and how you observe them. And this is multifaceted. You have to change your mindset. You have to regulate your nervous system. And you have to take actual concrete steps in the real world to make things happen. You do not have to be a victim. You do not have to jump through hoops. You don't have to wear yourself out constantly performing above and beyond and having somebody tell you that it's wrong. We know it's not, that it's not. So if you would like to work with me, my contact information will be in the links below. I've been there. I understand. 100,000% understand where you're coming from and so many of the challenges that our community faces. And I would love to work with you and encourage you. In the meantime, understand that your biggest, strongest, basic power, if you can't do anything else, is to be like, no, no, this is not my story. No, this is not happening. And you can be a good person and you can do your job and you can be a good partner and you can take care of your kids and you can be a good community member and all of these things and do what you need to do. And there can be compromise, but still holding your boundaries of no, you are not going to be a victim. So remember that you are divinely created in the image of the Most High God. and you may have been a target, but you don't have to remain a victim. So please do connect with me if you need extra support and help. I would love to help you. And I honor all of you, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.